Oh, hi, hey, hello, everyone. How are you all doing tonight?
I'm supposed to say that we promise to bring you the very best one-star reviews from all across the multiverse. But you know what? I don't believe it. I don't believe that for 1 second.
I'm rating my driver Marcus 1 star. Not for his driving ability, but instead for his disloyalty and cowardice.
I love the moon. Yeah, moon.
And as an independent podcast team with the entirety of our egos and self-worth wrapped up in the perceived success of our shows, we know firsthand that receiving a 1-star review can, at times, be the most traumatizing experience in a person's life.
I don't even like them all. I prefer La La Rue leggings and my essential oils. But these kids wouldn't shut up about, let's go to the mall, Karen, take us to the mall. So what am I supposed to do? These aren't my kids. Their well-being is not my problem.
Welcome back once again to the Space Window for what is sure to be the worst podcast in the world, the 1 Stars.
This has nothing to do with the movie Space Jam. I love Michael Jordan, and I've always been a fan of Bugs Bunny, basketball, and aliens.
I set the gun down on the merry-go-round, turned my back for like 30 minutes tops, came back from the slide, and it was gone. Just gone. No clue what happened there. But that's actually what led me to your product. The 1 Stars is a Good Point podcast.
From what we gather, as something emerged from the dwarf, star Tiresias, and presumably tore apart the golem.
The energy signature of Tiresias changed significantly at 6:43 set time. At that point, all telemetry cut out. We do know that something left a large amount of organic matter in its wake. A trail of an ashy substance can be found leading from Tiresias, past the Gorlan and onward out of the solar system.
All data was corrupted beyond recovery, and this symbol was found repeatedly all over the station.
I know it. I remember. It was there in Eden. I'm sure of it.
The reluctant, immortal Adam Delta 5 must defend the very structure of the universe whilst confronting his past.
You remember? No, you do not. You are close in time.
Where are you now? Where is your true form?
Sailing through the void, searching.
For what?
In time. Adam Delta 5. In time.
Chain of Being, a mythic sci-fi podcast. Listen now, where all good podcasts are found.
My name is Marty Hatchet. Friends call me Dennis Lunchtime. You can call me whatever you please. Just don't call me a liar, 'cause I'm trying to save your skin here, youngin'. How do I know all this about this tree, you want to ask? I know more about this and any other tree than any person could ever care to. I know firsthand what a threat trees pose to the world. An oak can drop as many as 10,000 acorns a year. You know what was here before people? Trees. You know what'll be around long after we're gone unless somebody does something about it? That's right, now you're getting it. Tree Slayer.
Available only on Channel 34 Sketch Comedy Radio. Available anywhere you get your podcasts.
The New Colossus is a completely unhinged dark comedy reboot of Anton Chekhov's classic play, The Seagull. Content warning. The New Colossus audio drama is rated R for content. Episodes contain explicit language, lust and sexual situations, gunfire, death, dysfunctional conversations, illness, bad theater, anti-patriotism, drinking, and arm wrestling. You'll laugh. You'll cry. We hope you enjoy The New Colossus.
Hi, this is Bob Ramunda, one of the members of the team bringing you the PodTales programming you just listened to. PodTales is committed to free, accessible programming to explore and celebrate the art of creative audio fiction. That means our live panels are captioned and ASL interpreted, the episodes in our podcast feed have accessible transcripts, and all our programming is free. But in order to make that happen, we need support from fans, creators, and listeners just like you. If you can, the best way to help PodTales grow is through a monthly contribution over on our Patreon page. Any amount that you can offer gets you year-round access to our Discord server, early access to episodes, updates from PodTales HQ, and more. Check out the goals on the page for some cool plans we have coming soon. Head on over to patreon.com/podtales to make your contribution today. Help us keep PodTales free and accessible and help us celebrate the incredible world of audio fiction. Again, that's patreon.com/podtales. Thanks.
Arlo, God's fucking 67 years old for God's sake. Doesn't he have long arms? Oh man, he's got this
Have you ever listened to the world? I mean, really listened. Just stopped and stood still and listened intentionally. What do you hear? Birds? Traffic? Your loud upstairs neighbor having a solo dance party? Some people can hear the buzzing of electricity, even over other sounds. That's pretty cool. As for me, I never really thought about it much. I could hear, so I could hear. Nothing special about that. I guess if I had to choose, a sound I've always liked is the sound of a dinner party. People chatting, silverware clinking. You never know when things will change, or how they'll change, or how that will change you. Seen and Not Heard, an audio drama about hearing loss and deaf gain, is available wherever you find your podcasts.
And this thing is going to actually shoot out 3 ciphers at you. 37. That's 88.
I think he's rolling on the real table.
That's 25.
He said he was going to use the book for one thing and one thing only, this chase.
This is what happens. The field of view just narrows intensely, and all of you can see 10 times further than normal. But because you're adjusting to this, you can only see 10 times further than normal. It's like looking through binoculars.
Oh, the headaches.
Yeah.
The second thing is that the tarp catches on fire. And the third thing is you can all hear each other's thoughts as you all unanimously scream.
That's my daughter, Hopperscotch. Is she just permanently thinking that at any point in time?
Is it the first thing Ellie thinks of when hearing fire and seeing 10 times more than normal? The first thought is, that's my daughter, Hopperscotch.
I was gonna say, Hopper, like, his first order of business is that he and Ellie are both still right next to the now flaming tarp, so he's gonna try to handle that. But then he would hear, that's my daughter, Hopperscotch, and he would think that Sarah was there, so he would be, like, looking around, like, is she here? I can see 10 times farther than normal.
So
it's just a lot of things happened at once.
Quest Friends, a podcast about friendship, family, and a statistically unlikely number of surprise daughters. Transcripts and recommended first episodes can be found at questfriendspodcast.com/about.
Paris, 1699, a time of civil unrest, non-hair-related salons, and the most innovative stage magic ever seen in a union house.
You know, I don't know if you can tell, but the excitement is palpable out there. Historically, no one's seen anything like this. In 1699, I mean.
That is Until it wasn't.
God damn it, I don't want to die! I have a reservation tonight!
Which brings us to now. Berlin, 1933. A time of more civil unrest, artistic pretensions, and rising evil, where a self-involved set designer...
You see these? These are Lamarck's own original notes on the Vanishing Box. My most prized possessions in the world.
An American con man.
I'll even lend you the cape.
You have a cape?
I have a sheet.
And a mysterious scientist.
Where was it you said you went again?
You can't speak its name.
Ignore their history in pursuit of the mystery behind...
Vanishing Box.
The Vanishing Box.
Vanishing Box. Vanishing Box.
Vanishing Box.
Vanishing Box.
Vanishing Box.
Vanishing Box.
The Vanishing Act. A rambling absurdity in 12 parts. Coming this summer.
The show's about Lamarck's Vanishing Box. I remade Lamarck's Vanishing Box. Nothing could go wrong. All right? All right, punch it.
Twins, 12 years old.
Kids, the mission isn't a game.
You're right. And it's a mission that you can't meet alone. You need help. Besides, these aren't just any children. They're your family.
Oh, same excuse every time you have chores.
Oh, you'd probably like this one, Alexa. The main character's Puerto Rican like us.
Take back time. American soldier Lieutenant Horacio Mendez is fighting a war on a foreign shore when he's pulled through an interdimensional portal into a time storm.
How cool is that?
I don't do interdimensional portals.
Whoa, that storm sure is close.
Bueno, I'm just glad you're not scheduled to fly a plane in this.
Can we turn on the air?
You know the rules. No air conditioning after Labor Day. When I was growing up in Puerto Rico, we just cranked open the window.
We're in agreement then.
Yes, I'm summoning Alexa and Benito Ventura into the time storm. Oh, I can't believe you're here! Oh, twins. Benito and Alexa Ventura, tremendous! You can travel in time, and whenever, wherever you arrive on Earth, you'll exist alive as can be. You can help me.
No, we can't.
Horacio said we both have a choice. You can choose to stay, and I can choose to go without you.
Oh, right. You fly around in some other century. I'll hang here, wondering if you're ever gonna return. Benny.
You're finally ready?
The mission isn't about being saviors of a culture.
It's about preserving and raising up what's already there.
You'll need to redefine what it means to save history. Witness. Find. Remember.
PodTales is committed to free, accessible programming to explore and celebrate the art of creative fiction podcasting. That means our live panels are captioned and ASL interpreted. The episodes in our podcast feed have accessible transcripts, and all our programming is free. Free! Free. But in order to make all of that happen, we need support from fans, from creators, from listeners like you. If you can, the best way to help PodTales grow is through a monthly contribution over on our Patreon page. Any amount that you can offer gets you year-round access to our Discord server, early access to episodes, and more. We have some really exciting things planned. Head on over to patreon.com/podtales to make your contribution today. Help us keep PodTales free and accessible, and help us celebrate the incredible world of fiction podcasting. Again, that's patreon.com/podtales. Thanks.
The universe has an eternal heartbeat.
It's not wrong, you know, to need somebody. Maybe you needed me too, maybe you just did not ask.
Each pulse quiet and across remote dimensions.
If I had my sword, I would run you through.
you would find that the most difficult task of your life. And your last.
Though seldom heard, when a beat sounds, there can arise.
Now, a single, deep breath. Center your mind.
I can't.
Yes, you can.
A strange love.
Come to me, my little one.
I spent 500 years protecting this forest from humans. From your kind. I kept this island human-free.
Come to me, oh what fun.
My kingdom spreads within. Hiss. I am a secret king.
My silken thread around you weave.
Their jaws and teeth became material, so they could tear at their prey.
Round and round, never leave.
Father, I know you don't want me here.
I walked west of the sun for your touch.
Do you believe in grace?
I walked east of the moon for your kiss.
I loved, and for a time, I was real.
Strange Love, an audio fiction anthology series. Fantasy, sci-fi, macabre. Written and produced by William J. Meyer. Listen on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and strangelovepodcast.com.
People will think we're weird.
So everything's okay?
Mami, cálmate. I'll be fine. We both know she's fretting about you, but I've been telling her our baby girl is going to thrive. Aw, Mom. I promise you guys, I have my telepathy completely under control.
Dante's Inferno seems really dark.
It's basically a tabloid with poetry.
Weird twist, but I'm listening.
Well, I have to pay for school somehow.
You know, my offer still stands.
Not this again.
Here's the thing. I kind of do want to tell you, but...
Hey, no pressure. You don't have to tell me.
My parents passed away 2 years ago.
I can't let myself slip like that. Again. It's none of my business.
I remember what freshman year can be like.
You're still in college!
I'm in my senior year. It's different.
God, I wish I had better control.
Tell me about it.
I'm worried about you.
Quit it! I said I'm fine.
I would do everything you do if I could, but I can't.
How do I make this right? So, yeah. My first semester of college is going great. I got this. The Path Down. A sci-fi audio drama about grief, privilege, and superpowers.
Okay, I think this is working. Hi, you're listening to Soundstage, Theater for Your Ears, a new anthology coming to you from Playwrights Horizons. We're a nonprofit off-Broadway theater in Hell's Kitchen, New York City, and we're committed to the advancement of contemporary American playwrights. My name is Adam Greenfield. I'm the theater's associate artistic director. And, okay, so I thought I was going to be recording this introduction in a studio somewhere, gearing up for like a splashy summer release of this series, but instead I'm sitting in my clothes closet in my apartment in Brooklyn, working from home in this new socially distant reality, recording this into my laptop with a mic that I didn't even know I had, which I found in my basement. But if you're like me, you really miss being at the theater right now, which is why we at Playwrights Horizons didn't want to wait a second longer to release this series, but are instead rush ordering this over to you with my recorded in a closet introduction. Soundstage is a new program of our theater, and it will continue long after this COVID-19 crisis, but we felt like the moment to launch this series has to be right now, because until we're able to gather safely in a theater again, we're determined to continue our work to bring artists and audiences together. So we started making these recordings a little more than a year ago. As committed podcast listeners ourselves, we were thinking about the new explosion of audio as a medium, and we started to get curious about what the inventive, adaptable, rule-breaking, genre-busting mind of the contemporary American playwright might bring to scripted audio storytelling. We started by commissioning a handful of writers, specifically trying to build the rangiest anthology we could imagine, written not to be recorded live in front of an audience, but instead to be something that's native to the digital medium, written specifically for audio. Each piece is vastly, dimensionally different from its comrades in the collection. We use theater directors, theater actors, and theater designers, and we're really delighted by the way it's turned out. The first 4 pieces you'll hear are a lush musical mass composed by Heather Christian, an anthemic spy thriller written by Robert O'Hara, a mind-bending participatory new theater piece written by Jordan Harrison, and a collection of cutting-room floor interviews with his parents written by Qui Gwen. And we have additional pieces that are in the works by Lucas Nath, Milo Kramer, Kirsten Childs, Jenny Schwartz, Carlos Murillo, Kate Tarker, and Jeremy O'Harris. It's been an awesome ride making this series. I mean, we're a theater company. We make plays that happen in rooms with people. We didn't really know how to make stuff like this. So yeah, there was a big learning curve in making these. It was a process that was full of surprises as we learned how to do it. But it has been truly a blast, and we're excited to share them with you. We hope you enjoy listening to these as much as we enjoyed making them.
I've seen you prodding the rim of a behemoth skull inside a dream you don't remember, excavating calcite layers of secret and lie. But despite your caution, the object of your searching gazes upon your delicate frame and ingests you from cell to organ to the theory of your imagination. And I do nothing to help you. I just hit record and applaud the 1,000 mouths that swallow. The nesting zone is surrounded by a 500-foot-tall hedge jungle, a rim of tropic glacial paradise, gnawed ceaselessly by paleomythic reptiles.
The stars in the sky were evil, a sin, the souls of long-lost devils dancing naked in the dark.
You think the chameleons have a sense of humor?
I think the chameleons have a sense of everything.
Every few days, a battle fight breaks out. Automatic weapon fire popping against the extra-dimensional moons of megafauna.
Peekaboo, I'll eat you.
Staying sane isn't an option here.
No one is ever going to hear your story. The ones you're trying to tell.
Ectothermic angels on all fours, vomiting out the blood of heaven to bless the battlefield.
They're all going to be eaten.
If you're listening to this story in hopes of finding meaning, go ahead and slice your ears off. Come on, tell me, how close can you stare at the tip of a knife? The Great Chameleon War, a surreal audio drama visit thegreatchameleonwar.com for more.
Hi, this is Jeff Andreessen, one of the members of the team bringing you the PodTales programming you just listened to. PodTales is committed to free, accessible programming to explore and celebrate the art of creative audio fiction. That means our live panels are captioned and ASL interpreted, the episodes in our podcast feed have accessible transcripts, and all our programming is free. But in order to make all that happen, we need support from fans, creators, and listeners like you. If you can, the best way to help PodTales grow is through a monthly contribution over on our Patreon page. Any amount that you can offer gets you year-round access to our Discord server, early access to episodes, updates from PodTales HQ, and more. Check out the goals on the page for some really cool plans we have coming up. Head on over to patreon.com/podtales to make your contribution today. Help us keep PodTales free and accessible, and help us celebrate the incredible world of audio fiction. Again, that's patreon.com/podtales. Thanks.
What?
Has this ever happened to you? You're pouring a bowl of your morning cereal, only to find that in the night your apartment's been overrun by pigeons? Then listen to The God Said Incidental, a dramedy about advice columnists, an absurd city full of gods, and pigeons. A lot of pigeons. The God Said Incidental is currently streaming on your podcatcher of choice, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Radio Public, and more. If you'd like more information about The God Said Incidental, you can find our website at godsaid.incidental.com.
I notice that your first destination is Arabella, but that's not on your way.
It's the first destination the writer went to. It's sacred.
Oh, how excited are you? On a scale of 1 to 10.
1 billion.
I thought the waters at Coast Venus were clear. That's something else.
Visitors. Of course.
You're Captain Valeria, right? Of the Ultramarine?
Yup, that's me. And that's her, the Ultramarine.
Sentimentality is a virtue of ours. It is ingrained in our people.
I'm sure such a thoughtful gift will cheer her right up.
One of the most important people we have to meet is in Arabella.
Who was this person?
No one knows, actually.
Signed Venus, Part 1. Listen on May 27.
Do you two know anything?
Tomorrow I'll do something out of stories. My feet will walk on earth that is not of earth.
Unforeseen circumstances are hard to prepare for. If you can prepare for them, they're foreseen.
Unless our plans change catastrophically, it should be fine.
I have been asleep for decades. How much more patience do you want?
They're growing us a village next to the base of a space elevator on a brand new planet.
For you to have this new and better world, I have to stay behind and make it.
Unimaginable animals. You didn't try the cheese.
What will it mean for all the stories you've told me to be alive on a new world?
It's so beautiful.
Trust me.
Here we go. Check out This Planet Needs a Name everywhere podcasts are found.
PodTales is committed to free, accessible programming to explore and celebrate the art of creative audio fiction. That means our live panels are captioned and ASL interpreted. The episodes in our podcast feed have accessible transcripts, and all our programming is free. Free! Free. But in order to make all of that happen, we need support from fans, from creators, from listeners like you. If you can, the best way to help PodTales grow is through a monthly contribution over on our Patreon page. Any amount that you can offer gets you year-round access to our Discord server, early access to episodes, and more. We have some really exciting things planned. Head on over to patreon.com/podtales to make your contribution today. Help us keep PodTales free and accessible, and help us celebrate the incredible world of audio fiction. Again, that's patreon.com/podtales.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to PodTales 2020. I am Jordan Stillman, one of the organizers of PodTales, and we are so excited to be putting on programming devoted exclusively to imaginative audio storytelling throughout the month of November. Today, we'll be treating you to the panel Supportive Play Acting. Thank you so much for joining us. At the top of this program, we would like to offer a land acknowledgement, a statement that pays respect to the Indigenous people who live here and who had their land stolen from them by colonizers. It is only the very first, barest step in what we can do to support Indigenous people today. The following acknowledgement of what to keep in mind as we participate in this digital space is written by Adrian Wong of Spiderweb. Since our activities are shared digitally to the internet, let's also take a moment to consider the legacy of colonization embedded within the technology, structures, and ways of thinking we use every day. We are using equipment and high-speed internet not available in many Indigenous communities. Even the technologies that are central to much of the art we make leave significant carbon footprints, contributing to changing climates that disproportionately affect Indigenous people worldwide. I invite you to join us in acknowledging all this, as well as our shared responsibility to make good of this time and for each of us to reconsider our roles in reconciliation, decolonization, and allyship. Next, I would like to thank our sponsors, Sarah Lawrence College and the Sarahs, Fool and Scholar Productions, Fable and Folly, Sleep With Me, Dagas Media, and Winter Hill Brewing Company. These are major contributors who helped sustain PodTales 2020 and allowed our show to continue virtually this year. Learn more on our website's sponsor page. PodTales 2020 is completely free. We believe in making the resources we're creating available and accessible to all. If you like what we're doing here and you have the means, please consider supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/podtales. ASL interpretation for this session will be provided by Brandon C. Kazan-Maddox of Body Language Productions. Learn more about Brandon's work at brandonmckazan-maddox.com. And please feel free to use the chat feature here on YouTube to say hello and ask a question of our panelists today. I'll be keeping an eye on the conversation and will pose a few of these questions to the group before the end of the hour. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Sean Howard, the lead producer at Fable and Folly, a recovering juggler, comedy improviser, and marketer. He has spent his career working in digital and rich media. He co-directed The Axe and Crown and is a writer on Alba Salix, the co-creator and co-star of Civilized, and the GM of The End of Time and Other Pothers. Take it away, Sean.
Thanks so much, Jordan. I am so excited to have this cast of amazing players here at the table, and we're going to introduce them one at a time because I want to give them each the time they deserve. And I'm going to pick who I pick on first here in a second. I'm sort of surprised that I was asked to run a session on supportive play acting because I'm often accused of being less than supportive for those who have had to play with me at their table. So, but I'm really, really proud to be here. I've been a long believer that audio, basically live plays need to be and are a part of audio fiction. And so I'm so excited to see them get the time here. There's some amazing people and amazing shows. So without further ado, let's get this started. I'm going to start by introducing Catherine Blackard. You might know the voice from so many things, but one of my dear favorites is Madame Estelle Thorpe, which we're going to talk about more. Kat is a multidisciplinary artist, a multimedia storyteller, animator, runs her own network, showrunner of an amazing horror audio drama. I'm so bad at reading. I'm just going to stop reading. One of my favorite programs, the Call of Cthulhu Mystery Program. If you haven't listened to that, please listen and wait till you get to season 2. We're going to talk about that. Kat is a pioneer of cinematic actual play podcast, runs Omniverse, goes on and on. So, Catherine, going to you first. Call of Cthulhu Mystery Program.
But you just did.
I know.
All of it.
No, there's more to talk about. So I know one of the things that you've spoken a lot about and we've talked about is the audio production values, but I don't want to focus on that. I want to talk about a really interesting thing that you did in season 2. So I think Call of Cthulhu Mystery Program has always been a safe representational place. But I want to talk about in season 2, how you really took a step into, I don't know what to say. It's like such a beautiful way to portray power and sexiness in a non-traditionally seen relationship, portrayed so lovingly and beautifully, but a lot of time, and it gets steamy, like it gets intensely amazing, between Madame Estelle Thorpe and Anna. Can you sort of recap for anyone who maybe hasn't listened, I'm interested in the journey for you, right? From season 1 and then going into season 2, was this like a key decision you made, right? To really step into that?
Well, not the eroticism particularly, or the romance or relationships, because it is, like all actual play, it is improvised. So I didn't know what I was getting into when we started. To give a little bit of history and clarity, Series 1 of Cthulhu is more of a traditional actual play. I've been making actual play podcasts since 2009 with my series Dungeons and Doritos. And progressively over the years, we started getting more involved, adding sound effects, contacting the amazing Ryan McQuinn, who sort of came up with us in the world of creating scores, and he's our composer for everything. And now with Cthulhu, he and his brother Ryan do all the score for that. So when we made the first series of Mystery Program, it was meant to just be a regular actual play, but the investigative nature of the platform of Call of Cthulhu, we were like, this has got to be a series. We can't just make this a special. It's got to have more heft to it, which pushed us a little farther. And then when that series was, as a standalone thing, so popular, we're like, okay, we could probably take this a step farther than that. And of course, didn't know what we were getting into, though. When we recorded it, I was, afterwards, we were looking at this huge mass of material, and I was like, okay. We'd already created a framing device for a 1930s radio serial, and I was like, I think we can actually we'd always called ourselves RPG audio dramas after we started integrating all these different aspects of production. And I'm like, I think we can really do it. I think we can make it 50-50, where we preserve all of the role-playing aspects of it and then also expand it in ways. So I had this material, and I was like, I know there could be more character development here. I can pull in people for re-records. Let me just actually take a huge risk financially and in terms of time and everything else, and see what happens if I push this as far as I can conceivably take it. And Anna and Estelle's relationship is actually a part of that, because when we started Series 2, our keeper told us, hey, look, everybody, make secondary characters, because there's a possibility that your primary characters could die, like, real quick. And that actually didn't end up happening at all. I think that was some kind of, like, idea he was flirting with.
Spoiler.
Well, okay. I mean, but, they don't die at the beginning. Who knows when they die? They could die anytime. Death comes for us all when we least expect it. So basically, I'd created these two characters, and I'd created a wealthy dilettante and her quote-unquote assistant, who also happens to be her partner. And I spent a lot of time developing those characters, and it got extremely personal developing Estelle in particular. I went very method, and that's a whole other story that I don't know if we should get into. It's a long thing, and I'm already gone pretty damn long here. But basically, I was playing two characters simultaneously. And when I decided, okay, no, we're going to hire other actors. We're going to fill all these NPC roles with other people, which means I'm going to go in and I'm going to like script everything. We're preserving as much of the original audio as possible, but we're also going to do re-records of some lines and create better transitions and build it out. So there were two progressions to developing this exploration of these two women and their lesbian relationship in the 1920s. And the first came from that decision to cast. So then I cast the amazing Melody Pereira. We had the character of Anjana Ramakrishnan is from Adyar in India, and Melody's from Sri Lanka, so pretty close. And she was local here to Orlando. So we pulled her in, and she was incredible. And I loved working with her. At that point that we pulled her in for the first recording, we had 3 episodes done. And I was like, okay, this character has a lot of weight. There's something more that could happen here. So I talked to her a little bit more about it. We were getting to know each other, and I was like, okay, I'm going to expand this character a whole bunch. So I created a bunch of scripted scenes that developed that and played that out. So none of those intimate moments happened at the table, because it would have been me like
with yourself,
with myself. But that was really, it was a decision that I made, that I was like, I just want to do this honestly. I want to show, especially in this horror program, with these 2 characters who I came to care about very much. I didn't want to, this is a horror show. I didn't want to kill any queer characters. I didn't want to be complicit in that vice of the medium or the genre. And I wrote some scenes and they felt right. And then Melody and I performed them, and that was a first for both of us, and it still felt really right.
It's amazing. So for anyone who hasn't listened, you are in for a treat. Trust me. Season 1's amazing. Season 2, that relationship is, it's a breakthrough in the medium. So
wow,
congratulations. Okay, let's go over to B. I finally get to meet B. So a little bit about B. You can add some B. B is you're a non-binary podcaster, a member of the Broadswords. Like, who here has not heard about the Broadswords? Amazing live play. You're a streamer, professional OBS. I think you're a level 12. Ponders is only up to level 4. OBS. You play Maypri, one of my favorite characters, a barbarian tiefling, who is, I would say, helpful to a fault. So thank you for being here. I want to talk about, there was something really amazing. The first time I listened to the Broadswords, there was a palpable trust at the table from episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not always the case, right? And so Victoria was putting you all in situations. And so if anybody hasn't listened to the Broadswords, do. It's amazing. And you don't start with character building, right? You chose to start in the story. And so my question is about that for you. Basically, Victoria was clearly pushing you into positions that you were clumsy, right? I'm just taking you way back to episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sort of wondering your decision to sort of start the Broadswords as a recorded, you were performing. Can you share of some of what sort of your preparation was that got you to that place where you started in episode 1? Or did you just was that it? You just like sat down and went?
Okay, that's a little bit of it.
Okay.
Which is kind of wild to consider where we started and where we have kind of arrived, I suppose. I mean, we still have a long way to go in this podcast journey, but no, the Broadswords, we started off, actually, we all had met on a group on Reddit, which then moved to Facebook, and it was a fitness group, which was wild, and that broke off into a gaming group. We had played one game of like a Star Wars online RPG. It went okay. There was only one session, but from that, we were all players, like myself and all the cast members from the Broadswords, and Victoria, of course, and a couple others. But Victoria had kind of decided, she was listening to some D&D podcasts at the time, and she was like, I think I can do that. I think these people, myself, the absolute zero knowledge that we currently possess, we can do this. So armed with that information, she made a group on Facebook Messenger, which like, it's not the best to communicate with. But that was just where we started. And she was like, hey, do you want to make a podcast about D&D? Me? I was like, what's D&D? Can somebody explain this to me? I've heard about it on Stranger Things, like that one show with the kids. Are we being kids? Like, is this what's happening? So that was the very, very beginnings of us trying to get together. And our first session, which is unfortunately available for everybody to listen, there was so much to learn. Like improving on the spot, that sounded fun. I love the idea of just making up something absurd on the spot. And of course, the first character that I ended up making, Maypri, the barbarian, it's hard not to put yourself into your first character, so that over helping a little bit too much, that's a lot of me. And I really enjoyed that because I felt like I got to play a part of myself, but wholly exaggerated. Oh my word. Beginning broadswords were so rough, though, let me tell you, technologically wise, where you learn along the way. Like Ponder is only being a level 4 OBS user. As a level 1 D&D player IRL and, in real life and in the game, it took a lot of learning. I've still never read the Dungeon Master's Guide, DMG. Yeah. Don't think I ever need to. Yeah. Because D&D is very much, you learn with the folks around you and then you play together. And like that in itself has wholly encapsulated like my experience with the broadswords, because going into it knowing nothing about D&D, nothing about microphones, technology, I used my own microphone backwards for 3 episodes. I didn't know microphones could be backwards. I thought, yeah, it was rough. So going from level 1 to, I like level 14. That's a good number. I'll take that to a level 14. I think I'm only level 7 in the game, but it's fine.
I have listened to a lot of episode 1 live plays, and let me tell you, your rough is still gold. It's amazing out the gate. The fact that you have all their audio fixed by episode 5, there are a lot of people who would love to trade places with you. Yeah, I see hands going up. So yeah, it's amazing, B, and thank you for being here. It's truly an honor.
Thank you.
All right, let's keep going. I'm gonna jump to my good friend. There's a few Canadians here, but I'm gonna jump to my good Canadian friend, Amy Moore. Amy, I was trying to remember the name of your first character. I can only remember Sully. Why can I not remember your first?
Because as B said, your first D&D character is oftentimes a lot of you. And even though I've played her for like 5 years, her name is Thea Amastasia.
Yeah, thank you. My brain was blank. Amy is a drama nerd. Amy is one part of Dumbgeons and Dragons. And if you haven't listened to that live play, you have to. Amy is also part of this amazing new thing called Facing Fate, which is a completely new system and story every season, which I adore. Amy's also a teacher, I believe. Amy does everything. Gardener galore. You wouldn't believe the garden shots I've seen. I'm improving. So Amy, your table began sort of the opposite of the Broadswords, where they were on a messenger group, I now have learned, and they were suddenly like, we're going to do this pro. Amy, you were snuck into this, right? Like you began just playing with friends, right? And you were living abroad. And I'm really interested because one of the things that was asked of me with this was what's it like when we do this for an audience? So you went from playing with friends, right? So I want you to go back to Amy that could be in a bathrobe. Wait, no, that's always Amy. I don't want to waste too much. I know. But Amy that could just be joining with your friends and having a fun time and doing it remote, because when you guys went overseas, to that first session where you were like recording this to release to a public. What was that transition like? How did that change it?
Well,
it clearly worked because you're still doing it years later, but
So we actually started Roundtable together in on Victoria or on Vancouver Island in BC, and it was just one of those things where, hey, friends, come on. And by hey, friends, come on, I mean my husband was like, well, can you guys just play with me, please? I know he's listening right now. And so we were like, sure, okay. And then we actually got into it hard. We had a date every week. Snacks were planned out. It was wonderful. And I think at one point during that, I thought we were so hilarious. And I was like, we should do a podcast. And everyone was like, cheers with the beers. And then we didn't. But then we did move abroad to South Korea, and we missed our buddies so much, and we missed playing, that we decided, hey, technology's cool. We could do this on Skype. And then, of course, Russ, my husband, the GM to all of our things, was like, well, hold on. If we're just going to be doing it with technology anyway, we might as well record it and put it out there, because I have nothing better to do in South Korea, because he was a house husband. So in order to keep Russ busy, so he didn't get into trouble, we decided to record it. And I don't know. Maybe it was because I didn't take it very seriously at first, but the transition from going tabletop to, okay, we're just going to put this out there. And I could be remembering it wrong, because that happens to me a lot. I have just podcast amnesia every week. It's the worst thing. Our listeners are the best, because they'll bring something up and I'll be like, haha, that's so funny. And they'll be like, yeah, you said that. And I was like, yeah, no, I remember. So I don't quite think I remember it correctly, but we didn't really talk too much about it and we just jumped into it. There wasn't much okay, so here's all the things we're gonna have to change in order to do this as a podcast. We were like, nah, let's just hit record. And our mics were crap, and the audio was garbage town, and everything was bad, and I had to stop frequently to feed our child because the time changed. She was awake, which is really inconvenient to record a podcast. And yeah, it was just it felt really natural, kind of like we had an audience all along, because we're narcissistic.
The audience was in you all along.
The audience was here all along. And also, we did not believe anyone would listen to it. So there are no nerves when you don't think anyone's going to be listening to you.
Yeah.
Just put it out there.
Which has proved wrong. If you haven't listened to Dumbgeons and Dragons, do so. It's a joy. And you might get to hear me kill someone. Spoiler. Okay. Let's go to Casey. Casey. We put the Furbies away. Casey's a podcaster and game designer from New Jersey. They produced Remember X, Not a Test, and a lot more. Commandroids, did I say that right?
Yeah.
And I first heard Casey on The Lucky Die, also on Popular Kids. They also work for Nerdy City. So basically, you have the nerd market cornered, Casey, pretty solidly, and has an amazing Furby collection that you have to hear about. Casey, I want to know, because you have appeared in a lot. Just looking at your Podchaser, I was like, whoa! So what is it? I want to know what it's like joining an existing table, because we're talking about supportive play. So, what's a good scenario, and do you have a bad scenario, without naming names? But I mean, how much negotiation is done in advance, or what's your favorite part about joining a new table? Yeah, very interested.
Well, I can honestly say I haven't had any bad experiences on anyone's podcasts yet. All my experiences guesting on other actual play podcasts have been really fun. A lot of them have been little one-shots, so it hasn't been quite as much integrating myself, but I did do Taking Initiative, for instance. I did a 2-episode guest spot with them where I was playing actually an ex-girlfriend of one of the characters, the established characters. That was actually a really fun one because every single guest on that episode was an ex-girlfriend of the same character. And it's honestly, and I've done a couple other where I've come on and been like a guest that just kind of like is has to ingratiate myself into the already there situation. And I think those are the most fun. I think especially like it's really fun, especially if you listen to the podcast, because then you're like, oh my god, I know this character. I get to like interact with them. But yeah, it's always like a fun situation, and I think the best part about it is kind of getting to play someone different than you usually play. For like, it's a chance to flex your role playing muscles, your acting muscles, and just get to play someone you wouldn't usually play on like a longer form. Maybe test out a character that you've been thinking about playing in a longer form game or something like that. I don't know. Maybe that's just me who does that. I can't say that I've never made up a character for a guest spot and then been like, I like this character a lot. I wonder if there's a longer campaign I can drag this guy to.
And what's your favorite? Do you like when you're like, do you ever done the ones where you work with the GM through a whole backstory, or do you like ones where you get to just come in? Like, what's your favorite?
Honestly, my favorite so far, and this episode of this podcast hasn't come out yet, so I don't know if I should say which actual play it is, but I got to go on and be a adversarial character on an actual play recently, and that was my favorite experience. I would like to do more of that. I think that's fun. Getting to play against the players is a super fun experience, and especially when you hold knowledge about the story, that when the GM gives you knowledge about the story, it's like you're getting like an artifact and you get to like hold that and like eke it out to the players, and it's pretty great.
Nice, thank you. Well, I've just started listening to Rememorex, and I also Rememorex : not a test, and I highly recommend it if you want to go back to high school. I get high school-ish, and relive that and take on the bullies. It's worth a listen, everyone. Let's I'm gonna open this up for anyone who wants to. I'm sort of just want to talk about what's one of your favorite moments at the table that you think, looking back now, might not have happened if you weren't performing, if there wasn't that pressure of an audience. And I know it's a hard question, but you know that like you were talking about that, like, oh, what, improv in the moment? There's this intensity that comes from that. What's a moment that happened or it could be a moment that then happened in editing that you didn't expect to come out so good. Anyone got any stories?
I have like an adjacent story.
Okay, do it.
To that. Simply that, so my first D&D experience was on a podcast, and I've been doing the Broadswords for about 3 years now. I've also been streaming for about 1.5 years. I average like 5 characters a week. I do a lot of online and offline games. Like, I run games professionally, so I manage a lot of NPCs. And the only thing that I can say is like I'm always extra performing because of that's how I started. I don't know how to like tone it down when it comes to doing that now. There's no like, what is sitting at a table calmly with friends?
I hear that. I hear it. I love the intensity.
That's all I got.
I feel that sometimes with knowing there's an audience there, I say things that I, like, in pleasant conversation would never come out of my mouth.
Right.
Like my, my vocabulary is quite lewd, and and I don't know, it just kind of happens. So it's like, grade 1 teacher here, what's up? And then, you know what? Tuesday nights, I'm someone completely different. And I think that, you know what? Most people like to not have their dirty laundry mouth spewed out for the world to hear. Apparently, I do. Don't tell my principal.
Nice. Cap, do you got something?
Yeah. In regards to the audience, I mean, that's never been. Let me put it this way: everybody can listen to the first time I played Dungeons and Dragons on the internet. It was the first actual play I ever did. Episode 1 of Dungeons and Doritos is it. It was we were doing a nerdy talk show, and we thought, wouldn't it be funny if we just played a game instead of talking about topical nerd stuff, and it escalated. So it's always been highly performative for me. I've always even then I wasn't content to just. I mean, I knew we were making radio. As far as I was concerned, it had to pop. I could not revert out of character. So it was bombastic from the beginning, and that's how it's stayed. And that's something that I bring with me to the table as a director as well. One of the edicts that we use in Call of Cthulhu that stems directly from what I kind of learned as a player, for a variety of reasons, is that I want everybody to be in character all the time. If you're asking the DM questions, then you're still in character, because that's going to bring the energy out. You're going to have moments, and they're going to be kinetic. And I do a lot of work with horror, and I think that is one of the most visceral ways to play with the interactivity of the medium and the improvisation, because you can give people genuine reactions. They're effectively putting a piece of themselves into this world where they can be harmed. So there's ways to pull more performances out of them. One of the projects that I think is most indicative of that is not Mystery Program, but is Ghostbusters Resurrection, which is it uses the 1980s D6 Ghostbusters role-playing system, and is set in the world of the films. And the showrunner of that is Doug Banks. He's an incredible GM, but I co-produce and co-write series 3 of that. And we use that as a massive experiment to see what we could do with our players, who are friends of ours we've known a long time, to sort of push them to different places, to really give them experiences. Because in this, which takes place in modern times in the real world, they're playing themselves. So that threshold is gone. They're playing enhanced versions of themselves. And we've done all kinds of things that have put them in the moment. For example, I do a bunch of creature design. So when a creature is revealed to them, we might show it in obscurity, show it to one person, have them react to it, and because they know they have to deal with it, they'll be like, oh gosh. And then they'll quick get a walkie-talkie and start talking to their friends, be like, I see this thing coming out of the water and it's just one eye, but there's clearly something else moving around me. And it gets really visceral when you deal with the obscurity of showing them something for a split second, asking them to describe it. It makes everything come alive in really visceral and exciting ways.
Nice. All right. Well, Casey, hopefully, can we hear you, Casey? I know Casey's video is frozen.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know why my video froze. I apologize.
It's okay. That's good.
I am still here. I didn't just put on a picture of me and walk off to get pizza. That's definitely not what happened.
Okay, good. So, well, let's jump to Casey. So because you play as a player and a GM, right?
I don't GM any of the podcasts I'm on, no. But I do. I am a professional GM.
Yeah. So I did listen to you, I think, it was an episode of The Lucky Die, right, that you GM'd? Is that correct?
I did, yeah. Recently, we were on hiatus between seasons 1 and 2, and I got to GM an episode, my first ever GM on a podcast.
It was amazing. Cool. It was so fun.
Thank you.
So just with that idea of doing both, and within this construct of supportive play, but also the idea that we're trying to create drama, like Kat is talking about, what is how do you think what's your approach as being a GM, right? Are you a leading? Are you following? What was your how did you approach that?
So I think as a GM, you don't want to you don't want to lead too much, because you don't ever want your players to feel railroaded. But I definitely do think I as a GM like to kind of leave crumbs for my players to pick up, to kind of sow drama, and see if they pick that up. But and a lot of the time they do. I try more to follow like my players' vibe. Like if they're feeling like a way where I can tell that they're kind of like wanting to be more goofy, I will let it be a more goofy situation. Like that I think that episode was pretty goofy. I kept having to stop myself when I was editing it because everybody was making me laugh so much. But yeah, I generally tend to think like, yeah, you follow. I try to follow my players, and usually you can get some good drama out of that anyway. There's always a lot of your players will like misinterpret things that you drop, and then you that gives you something new to do, and improv on. And yeah, I find that your players will tend to create drama for you. You don't
I'm
have
jealous.
to
I'm jealous that you have players that actually pick up any clues because I don't know what that's like. So I want to jump to B. So B, following up on that. So you're in your first time playing. This is season 1, I believe. Well, maybe episode 6 or something. You know, I can sense that you're all trying to be supportive of Victoria, the GM.
Yep.
But you're also playing these characters that are very much you. So there is a scene where oh god, Maypri is in a dream and is in a boat, and it's a rowboat, and it's misty, and I think Maypri is trying to figure out what's going on. You're trying to figure out what's going on when all of a sudden a creepy hand comes out of the water to grab the boat. And Victoria's still speaking, and it was like a visceral reaction from you. You just slap it. You said, "I slap the hand." I just want to talk about that moment and what that was like for you, because it was an amazing moment where it wasn't like you were challenging Victoria, but you were challenging. You were like, "That hand is not touching this boat."
Reactionary, very reactionary. You know, there's moments when a good GM can craft a scene and you're sitting there imagining all of it, and then all it takes is that one thing to shatter the comfortable reality of that scene, and you just don't want any of it.
Yeah, it was an amazing moment. I loved it. I think you then cast a fireball. I think that was the go-to of Maypri early on. Everything's a fireball.
Our Eulari's our wizard fireball. She still solves everything with a good fireball.
Okay. Kat. Back to Kat. So your shows really thrive on strong players and the unexpected.
Yeah.
And you've now been through, so talking about I always get the name wrong of the Cthulhu. Call of Cthulhu Mystery Program. You know, when we look at like season 1 and season 2, you've gone through casting changes even in that show, right? Moving between
Yeah,
seasons.
it's an anthology. Every series is we don't even call them seasons because we want to make sure that people understand that it's not continuous. Like, you know, like you're praising series 2. Everybody, please listen to series 2 first. It's better. Just do that.
No, they're both amazing. They're both amazing. So what do you look for in a guest or a player? Like, you know, like how do you pick them?
This has actually become an increasingly more complicated process because the first 2 series were playing with people that I knew, but because it's an anthology, we've now been pressured to find more people. We're releasing series 3 early next year, but we've already recorded all the way up to series 6, and we also have a live event happening Friday the 13th, which is next week, the 13th and 14th. It's a charity Call of Cthulhu live stream. We're going to attempt to make a variation of the mystery program experience with, you know, music and sound effects, but live. Fingers crossed. It's been difficult casting for these things because there's all kinds of criteria about what the players need to be capable of. They have to be good performers. They have to have mic etiquette. Sometimes I'll cast things abstractly. Like in series 3, I pulled in a really wonderful musician by the name of Chris LeBrain. He is in a funk band and he's a radio DJ, and I heard him speaking on, like, we didn't know each other really, we're friends of friends, and I was like, but there's something about you that would be amazing on this show. So I just kind of, you know, I floated on by and it works. And the great thing about the system is that the system is really simple and supports people jumping in because it's not in the modern times, but because it's in the 20th century, people have some semblance of how everything works and can put together, they can just sort of dive into it. But yeah, casting. Let's see, what's the trick to it? It requires a great deal of research. You have to look at people's material. You have to ideally spend some time with them. I love casting people who I have had time with. A rare exception to that is, like, for example, in the forthcoming game, I have Sawyer Green from This Planet Needs a Name. He is amazing on that program. And I was like, but I really want to work with them. And there's no conventions in the age of COVID. So let's just dive in. And, we're making that happen and seeing what he brings. And he's awesome. So, but then also I got to know Caleb Del Rio at a lot of different conventions and events, such as PodTales last year. And he's amazing. So we've wanted to work together for some time, and now we're doing it. It is about personal connection, because that way I can judge the ways that people are going to step into the roles, who they are as a person, how they can handle things, like both comedically and sensitively. It's a very difficult recipe. Intuitive is what it is.
Thank you. And Friday the 13th, everyone, we'll get that plug in. If Ponders is on his game, that would have come on the screen, but right, Ponders is hiding, right? You all can't see him
about Ponders,
but we can. Okay, Amy. So Amy, you started playing with friends, and then I didn't know this, but you're the first one to call for this to be programmed, to go live, to be recorded. We now know that for posterity.
That's right. Write it down.
So you were going, though, like, there's a whole journey, right? When you first start playing the game, where you get used to, like, using character voices. You get used to, right? Like, there's that whole journey we go through when we're learning. And you guys sort of went on this journey as a group. So I want to know now, because I feel like you love playing characters. Like Sully is now my new favorite. So I sort of want to know, what's your favorite character? Who is your favorite character that you play, and why?
Oh, Sully is definitely my favorite character.
Why?
Like, you have a special place in your heart for your first character. But like B had said before, so much of yourself is in your first character. And even though I am like a drama person, I went to university. I have a BFA in dramatic arts. Like, I'm a drama person. It's so comfortable being yourself, and especially with something that you weren't 100%, like, I was not all in when I started. It was really easy to just get attached and play myself, but maybe like a little bit of a wilder myself. But then we started what do we call, like, the second story? We've got like 2 timelines, and now it's all, and then there's
in the same world.
In the same world.
Yeah.
And it's gone crazy, and that's not our fault.
No.
But
that's Russ's fault. Yeah.
And not even Russ, and someone who I'm not going to name but loves PowerPoint presentations.
Yes, I was
well.
in the call. Yes. So talk about, so you start this new storyline, and then what made you create Sully?
I don't know. Sully came from just wanting to do something totally different, and also really wanting to try a character voice, because I did try to do a character voice with Thea at the beginning, and I just couldn't find her voice. I really couldn't. She was so very much me, that everything, like, I try to really wispy, like, you guys, and I was like, nope. I did it for an episode, I think, if you listen back to like season, I don't know, maybe 2, wait, I don't know what season we're in now. I'm so bad at this. But like way back at the beginning, when we had come back to Canada, we were still recording in a closet, and I was just, there's one episode where you're going to be like, whatever you're doing there, stop it. But with Sully, I don't know. I wanted to try something so different, and it did take me a while. It took me, I think, 3 or 4 episodes to find Sully's voice. And it's just, I think that if you were to listen to him and then look at me, you'd be like, not what I was picturing. And I really love that. I love that everything about him. He's such a liar, He's so full of himself. He's like way too confident for the abilities he has, and just so very lovable at the same time. I don't know. He's like my favorite, just deep inside my heart.
My favorite too. All right, I'm going to open it up to the table. Sexual innuendo. A good thing or a bad
Very
thing?
good thing. I mean, it depends on the comfort of everybody, right? But you know, if the consent is there, then that's how you make a spicy show.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have listeners that are like, more dick jokes, please. Can I say dick on here? I just did twice. I'm so sorry.
I
But
don't
yeah,
think that's
like,
innuendo. I think when you actually say dick, I don't think you're innuendoing.
oh, wow. I suppose not. No, we're overt innuendoers.
Nice.
I think that's what you call us. But are you talking about like sexy interactions?
I don't know. Just trying to find out like where it's at for your table or what that's been like.
DMing with my husband, we cannot at all have anything going on between us, innuendo or otherwise, because it's just yucky. I love him very much. But when you know that two of your people playing the game are romantically involved, any sort of flirtation inside the world that you're building together is a little cringy. However, there was a time when Russ and Carla had some like flirtiness, and I was all there for it. It's like, yes, but it's the comfort level of the players. And if you're with good friends and you know where you can like push the boundaries to everyone's comfort, I'm all for it.
Broadswords is like when you start season 1, like there was the whole bath scene, right? Do you want the bath alone, not together? With these little moments where it's like, like how's this gonna play?
So, fun fact, season 1 of the Broadswords, we had never learned about like Monty Cook's consent in gaming. We were not familiar with lines and veils. We weren't familiar with the X card, none of those safety tools, nor did we really have a conversation about tone and expectations. First game for a lot of us, mostly all of us. So after season 1, we revisited that, and that was when I decided I don't want any sexual references like around my character. Like I tried it out, didn't want it. Yalari's and her bath, she decided she wants more baths. And that's fine, but we had the conversation around it that made it a lot more comfortable, because going in, I was going for humor. Other characters weren't. We needed to be on the same page, and that takes time and conversation.
Thank you. Kat, I know the sexual. Just listen to season 2 of Cthulhu, and you'll know. You'll know where.
I mean, I think that being intensely sexual is a hallmark of most of my things that I do. And I think one of the charms of the medium is that we are allowed to have like rated R programming to a degree that, in the podcast medium, to a degree that other mediums do not permit. The freedom of this medium is special in that way. So I know that I think a lot of the early success of Dungeons and Doritos was how it was an extremely hard R fantasy show. And the comedy was as lewd as a world that's constantly caked in mud, like it is a repugnant place. And that was both spoke to our sensibilities as players. All of us were friends, so we could push things a bit farther, and have a lot of uncomfortable sexual contact with each other. But if the consent's there, and as B said, shout out to the Monty Cook Games Consent in Gaming. Actually only just got hip to that thanks to Caleb Del Rio, because we have to have a lot of conversations with Cthulhu, especially as I'm interacting with other people who I don't know really well, about the nature of the game, like not just with sexuality, but like with racial issues as well, because it's a historical fiction. It's set in the 1920s, and we like to focus our lens on minority people in that time period to explore storylines and walks of life that were not typically explored during that time period, and doing what research we can to make those really come alive and showcase the I mean, there's a lot I can wax on about the parallels between like Lovecraft's othering and how that reflects on minority voices and how it can be reconfigured and reused in a modern setting to great effect. But doing a role play surrounding those difficult conversations, having a tool like the RPG consent form is invaluable. And that had only existed for us with conversations before, but I really love having a supplement that I can pass out to everybody and we can have it in black and white effectively, saying like, this is what's cool.
Yeah, thank you. Casey, anything to add? Innuendo, consent?
Yeah, I guess I'd echo what everyone else is saying. You know, it's really important, like having a conversation before you do anything, too, like, I guess iffy. Like, luckily for me, all my podcasts are with like people I was friends with before I started my podcasts. Rememrex is actually, well, before pre-COVID times, we used to literally record around a table in my friend Harold's apartment. So we're all really close. So we kind of like mostly know each other's boundaries, but I always, you know, as someone who's in my character in that game is in a relationship with my friend Joey's character. And I always make sure, like, when we're doing relationshipy stuff, I try to check in with him and be like, is this something you're comfortable with? Like, do you want me to back off this? And, you know, I think that that's important to do. Like, even if you have pre-standard boundaries or you know each other pretty well and you think you know like what everyone's boundaries are, you know, just check in with people and make sure if they want you to like back off or if they're cool with you more moving forward. I also have the same thing in the limited series we're doing right now, the Command Droids one, because my character is in a marriage with my friend Josh's character. Had a conversation at the beginning because we very quickly started having a competition about who can come up with the most uncomfortable pet names for each other. Oh. And once we started doing that, we had to like check in with each other. We're like, are you cool with this? Like, is it too much if we start like calling each other like Schmoopy Bear and shit like that? And that's not even that sexual, but like that was still something where we had to be like, you know, is this okay? Are you going to be like really uncomfortable if I call you like Cyber Dumpling and shit like that? Like,
I'd have to have a check-in if one of my players called me Schmoopy Bear. So that's valid.
Somebody please call me Cyber Dumpling. That's
all right, Jordan, we are ready for questions. We have 7 minutes for any questions.
We have loads of good ones, so buckle up. So the first one we have here is actually kind of bouncing off what you were all just discussing. What are steps that you have taken to take care of yourselves and your fellow players at the table, especially if you're playing games that trend more towards drama, tragedy, or intense scenarios?
We always have a conversation before every game, and if there's going to be anything that might be like real touchy for any one of us, we just talk, because I mean, we were all really good friends for years before we even started playing D&D. So our friendship, like we just kind of, you just think about each other and we talk before, and then we also debrief after. So anything that, and I think it's to have the comfort as well in the game to know you can talk to the people you're playing with, and have that open conversation is important.
My table's like B's. It's all just comedy. So like B's character. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Like B though, you all started as like, were you a lifter too? A bunch of them. I don't know if a lot of people know. Like, listening to the early Broadswords, there was a whole lifter like community, right? That just came.
We're all power lifters.
That's so
now
cool.
I just do yoga.
But did you guys? Yeah. Did you guys like? How do you guys do check-ins? Like, because I guess you learn to develop those tools and conversations. But how do you guys do check-ins now?
I mean, similar to Amy, the before conversation and conversations afterwards. With games, we've adopted a method called stars and wishes. Stars are where you highlight your favorite moment from the session, and then a wish is what you wish to occur later on, probably in the next session, because that helps guide your GM. But that also kind of lets them know, like, here's how I'm feeling about the thing. Sure, you're leading me here, but I want to do this. And that helps you and the GM stay on the same page so things don't get too sideways, just appropriately sideways.
That's such a nice way to do things. Afterwards, we all just yell at Russ. So I think maybe we should probably start like being a little more constructive. You really have me digging deep and like thinking about myself here, B. Thanks.
I love this. Thank you.
I love that system. That sounds great.
What else you got, Jordan, for us?
Absolutely. So these questions are both related, so I'm going to combine them. So have you ever played a character in a game that just didn't resonate you? How did you handle that? And likewise, on the other side of that, you've talked a lot about playing characters that are very you. Have you played characters that react to things very differently than yourself, and how have you handled that?
I played a character in another. I was in a finale for Dungeons and Dragons podcast, and I did a lot of voice work for her, and I feel like we just didn't mesh at all. And I can't put my finger on why. And I just kind of like gritted my teeth and like just like finished it off, and then just I don't know. It leaves kind of an unsavory feeling and like taste in your mouth afterwards when you like put your effort towards something where you're like, I just couldn't make that click.
I do a lot of work beforehand of diving into any character, whether it's testing out voices or doing research on backgrounds, and I always try to put a little bit of myself into those roles. I can't imagine stepping into a role that I didn't want to be in, because otherwise, what's the point? Where's the charm and love and characterization going to come from if I'm scrambling to make something work that's not going to? I mean, I could see how that might be fun in like an improvisational experiment sense, but yeah, I don't really see the purpose of jumping into characters that you don't have an investment in.
I haven't on mic ever been in a character that I felt really uninvested in, but I have in like a regular game that I was playing outside with my friends, and I just I think that the best thing to do in that situation is talk to your GM and be like, hey, listen, I'm not feeling this character. Can we work on either like a way that I can feel better about this character, or like we can get rid of this character, they can just leave and I can make somebody that I think I'd resonate more with. I think everybody wants to have fun at the table, and so you want to make sure that your GM is as invested in you having fun at the table as you are. Like you, as somebody who GMs like a lot, it's if I think one of my players isn't having fun, I'm gonna be stressed out, because that's all I want for you guys is that you have a lot of fun.
Well said. Got another question, Jordan?
Yeah, I was just waiting. Want to make sure everyone had
That's
a chance.
Oh, yeah. No, everybody's echoed really my feelings on that topic.
Yeah,
Awesome.
That was great.
Yeah, I got another one. So what are some things that help create a supportive acting environment to portray diverse and personal identities? Whether things you've done, others have done that helped you, or you'd like to see?
I think that the biggest thing to create a good supportive acting environment is utilizing yes and from improv. Like if you want, like, I think that the best environments especially because like all we're doing is improving, right? We're not I mean, some of us are like vaguely scripted, but like for the most part it's like unscripted actual play podcasts or live play, whichever you'd prefer to call it. So I think that the most important thing is utilizing yes and trying to work mostly with everything that's happening. I think that that's when you end up having problems, is when somebody's trying to decisively wants to work against the scenario, and that's when another conversation that the GM would have to have with the players.
Well said.
When I think about safe spaces and the table, I think about a lot of parallels between it and experiences that involve surrender, like BDSM, or in a less sexual context, magic, for example. Like when you enter a circle for a ritual, someone might ask, how do you enter? And you say, in perfect love and perfect trust. And if you don't have that perfect love and perfect trust, entering into potentially a intense role-playing experience which goes, of course, both ways for both the player and the GM, you enter into a realm where someone can get harmed. There has to be a knowledge that at any point the game can stop and that people can check in and be safe with one another, which is very true if you're confronting any kind of real world troubles and harms or fantasy parallels therein.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. We're a little over time, so before Ponders gets angry at me, I want to start by thanking Brandon for doing such an amazing job signing everything we've been saying. I talk very fast, and I haven't gotten the slow down. Thank you, Brandon. I don't know how you did that. So this has been a true dream to be here with all of you, some of my favorite shows on the planet. So everyone, please go and check out Call of Cthulhu Mystery Program. Check out Rememorex, Not a Test, as well as Command Droids, Casey. And be sure to check out Dumbgeons and Dragons and Facing Fate with Amy, and The Broadswords with B. And again, I want to thank you all for your time and for doing this. This was amazing.
Thank you,
And
Sean.
I have one small thing before we jump into my outro. I've had a request to ask that Kat talk about the upcoming Cthulhu live show. If you want to plug that.
Yeah, I've already done a little bit, but I will do it again because it is for a good cause. Coming up Friday and Saturday of this week, the 13th and 14th, we are doing a live Call of Cthulhu event with Sawyer Green, Caleb Del Rio, Joshua LaForge, and Dottie Vox. It is a 2 nights of role-playing starting at 7 every night, and it is a charity stream benefiting the Transgender Law Center. You can find all the information for that at cthulhumystery.com/live.
Awesome. And thank you all so much. Thank you for being on this panel. You're all brilliant. It was so awesome. And thank you all in the audience for coming and joining us for this hour. This session is part of PodTales 2020, 3 weekends of programming brought to you in partnership with the Sarah Lawrence College International Audio Fiction Awards. For a full list of sessions, please visit podtales.org. That's PodTales.org. And be sure to subscribe to PodTales on the podcatcher of your choice to find the podcast showcase selections we'll be featuring from now through the end of the month on our feed. And as a reminder, PodTales 2020 is completely free. We believe in making the resources we're creating available and accessible to all. If you like what we're doing here, please consider supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/podtales. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.